The Monster Hunter Rise digital event occurred this week. So Capcom held it with many new details and what we already knew, but there was a demo that was launched on that day. So they showed off lots of new monsters. I think, yes, as Swinny has put in the notes, that creepy cave monster, the Khezu, that was very horrifying.
Oh, it's so awesome looking. It's horrific.
It is horrific. You need to watch the video to see it. And they did also show off some new features that we didn't know about beforehand, such as Wyvern Riding. So the demo is a limited release. It's available now. It did crash the eShop when they launched it. So it just sort of shows the hype around Monster Hunter. And the demo, there's some restrictions. Shouldn't really bump up against any of them, but you can play the demo until the 1st of Feb. It's both solo, local multiplayer, and online multiplayer, where Swinny will refuse to play online multiplayer with me because he's doing his RPG thing and he waits until the game actually comes out. And then, so the demo is going to terminate at the 1st of Feb. And then also there's some weird restrictions around. You can only do some of the quests 30 times max, but there's lots of ways to get around that.
One.
I doubt that you would really run against that. And the game is releasing the 26th of March. Swinny, you played through this?
Yeah, so I didn't do there's a beginner quest and an intermediate quest and some tutorial stuff. So
Yeah.
I did the tutorial one thing. It's going to cover a lot of what I already know. It honestly, this demo is not designed for someone new to the series because these tutorials are completely focused on the new abilities and the new additions, which is the wire bug, the riding the Palamute, and the endemic life that gives you stat boosts and things like that. I could just imagine Indigot like you being like, what the hell? Because the HUD of Monster Hunter is there's so much going on, and you have to do multiple. You have to hold the item button and then press Y and A button to scroll between the items. Like that stuff that you used to if you've played Monster Hunter, but for someone new, they don't explain any of that stuff.
Yeah, so I have never played Monster Hunter. I was thinking about going back to play either Generations or Monster Hunter World, but then kind of thought that was a bad idea, just maybe because playing World and then this, I'd feel like it's inferior or whatever. So I wasn't very familiar with how Monster Hunter played. And I went straight to the tutorial. I'm like, okay, cool. It's going to guide me through how to play this game. And I'm like, what the hell is this tutorial? It's the worst tutorial I've ever seen. You're 100% right. It's for people who are already into Monster Hunter and, played Monster Hunter World or previous games on handhelds. And then it's like, okay, I got my head around what the new things are. But I don't know, it's kind of weird because I feel like I'm hearing, and, it's my case, so it's anecdotal, but it feels like a lot of people are like, hey, maybe I'll give this a crack. It's the first Monster Hunter game. I think the Switch has lacked a really big heavy hitter AAA game that looks good for a while now. I think Luigi's Mansion looks fantastic, but it's not that style of game. So I think there are a lot of people who are keen to get this. And I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity, the way they built that demo, the tutorials. But I had to Google so much, Swinny. I was like...
I can imagine.
Oh, dude, I wasn't even going to buy the game. 20 minutes into the demo... because I was starting to do the quests and stuff. I was like, I'm not going to get this game. This game's annoying the hell out of me. All I wanted to do is lock on to a monster when I'm fighting it. And I'm running around and I can't lock onto it. And, I'm very old school. I remember playing Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and that was the first game that had a lock-on system.
By the way, you're not really... Locking on's not really the main thing you do, because with Monster Hunter... you're often targeting specific body parts, and they don't allow you to target specific body parts with any lock-on feature. So it's very...
No, they do. They do now. They do.
Oh, okay.
There's games you could do that in, yeah.
Yeah, so
I don't know. The Surge, maybe?
No,
remember that one, Swinny?
Mike, I'm talking about Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
but they could have implemented something like the Surge, which
but what I'm saying is
really
this is the action, the controls of Monster Hunter is very unique in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So that's the thing I didn't realize. It doesn't
play like a traditional character action game or something.
Yeah, because normally a lock-on is just a button press, like an L or a ZL or whatever. In this game, it's right stick, the camera stick, R3 essentially, pressing the right stick, and then it cycles through the camera views. So it's one of them could be the monster that you're fighting, then it will kind of lock into that as a target. And then I'll start to like, then it's just target mode. Once I figured all of that out, I was like, oh man, this is like, I love the game from that point.
Oh wow.
But I found it so impenetrable to like, how am I supposed to figure that out? Like,
Well, welcome to Monster Hunter, man. Like, this is now you've got to imagine that a
like
lot
it's
of
like
the
Dark
games.
Souls.
Well, Dark Souls has got nothing on how complex the
Convoluted the
systems
system
are.
is.
Because
Yeah, exactly.
so I guess to give you a bit of my thoughts on when I jumped into that tutorial mission, especially, and then I played the beginner mission, was that man, they I know they've only got that one location. This game just plays so well, and it's so close to world in a lot of ways. The environment, or at least that one, definitely not as complex, but because the traversal, like the movement in this game is insane. Like it kind of boggles my mind, the stuff you can do with the wire bug and the wall running. It's just crazy. I could see clips of people just being absolutely insane, especially when you combine the wire bug with the insect glaive. So the insect glaive allows you to do super crazy aerial combos. Like this game could be crazy, and it's very different because I'm a sword and shield user in Monster Hunter World, which is super basic, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to use that, and I had to really adjust to having to use the wire bug to dodge around. Because that's very different to how I played World. And World's the only Monster Hunter game I ever played, with the exception of just trying out, I forget, one on the 3DS that I had. But just like the Palamute, when you jump on that and then you drift around on the Palamute and you jump around, it just feels so cool. What they've done with this game is just almost incredible. It just feels so good.
I am so hyped for this game now. Like, so, once I got past the whole, basics of the camera, because I do think in gaming, you need to feel like at least the rudimentary part of how to move the character in a way that, you can achieve things. Like, I feel like I couldn't even really fight properly without being able to, like, lock into to the monster that I'm fighting. But once I got my head around that, because I don't know much about this game, to be honest, and just going through the world and, climbing up, like almost like Breath of the Wild style for me, climbing up the mountain with the wire bug and just like discovering, new elements and items. I was like, wow, this game, I'm going to be addicted to this game.
And what's wild is that each location, so the Monster Hunter Worlds, the Monster Hunter games, they generally don't have that many locations. Like World probably had about maybe 5 or 6 off the top of my head, but with not including Iceborne content. But they layer so much stuff in, and it changes. So depending on the hunt that you go on, or the mission, it might have slightly different small monsters hanging around in certain areas. And I was really happy to see that they still have turf wars in this as well. Where the monsters fight each other, because I was almost, and I didn't know that much about. I hadn't watched all the pre-release footage that's shown up to this point, but I didn't even know myself if they still had the zones where you essentially load into each zone. But I'm so glad that it's not. I'm so glad it's like World, where it's one cohesive.
Oh, so the whole thing's open world now?
No, so the way it works is, so in the older Monster Hunter games, you had like
the one we played.
No, before that.
Oh, before that, okay.
Yeah, so you had like the locale, and then you have numbered zones, like 1 to 10, let's say, and there's a loading screen in between each one. So with World, they introduced it where it's all seamless, where there's no loading. The areas are still kind of numbered for reference, which is really helpful. And thankfully that's the same with Monster Hunter Rise, because for people going from World to this, it makes it much easier to to just adapt. It's really, really good.
Oh, so the way it would have worked. Yeah, I get you, because I've seen the map. So you're saying if it said region 1, it would just be that piece and nothing else.
Correct. And then you move between the loading screens. And the monsters would move between the locations as well. So they would move in, and then you'd go load to the next area and you'd see the monster. Or I don't know if there's possible if it could then have warped to like a further locale. But yeah, so it was split up. But a lot of that was it was kind of the traditional model of the Monster Hunter games, and also when they started and kept everything as like it moved to a very handheld focused series and made sense from a technical standpoint. But it's really good that they decided, no, look, hopefully we're past that point now, and the Switch, which is essentially the handheld of the day, is it feels right at home. So yeah, really happy. The reason I didn't want to play it yet was because the whole loop of that game is defeating the monsters to get the materials to then craft new equipment and stuff. And so there's doesn't feel like any incentive to really play it other than just honestly just get some initial impressions, because there's no loot there to incentivize and no building or stuff.
Yeah.
There's no hub to go to yet. So that's why I don't want to get into that until the game comes out.
Yeah, no, I was just being a bit cheeky because I have deleted the demo already on my Switch.
Already? Why?
Well, I played through it. I think I got my head around the basics on how to move. And I think, the mechanics, as you're saying, Swinny, the wire bug, like I went back to watch YouTube. Yeah, you can hang if you press A as you're going in the air. Like there's so many things you could do mechanically.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like it is going to be a little bit like Breath of the Wild, where people do these really crazy mechanics videos. But I had the same sentiment as you. I was like, well, I was kind of already get this game. It almost put me off the game, the demo, just how I was like, can you not lock on? Like, it's really pissing me off, actually. And then, getting my head around that and then playing it and just going around randomly and seeing the monsters. It was so sick. Like, I really loved it. And I was like, you know what? I just got to stop playing it because I actually found myself wanting to jump back into the demo and play through the quest again. I'm like, all that energy, I just want to save it for when the actual game comes out. And for me, the biggest thing would just be, do I get it digitally or physical? Because I normally get things physically, but it does seem like one of those kind of games that you would want to jump in and out of all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Have you decided, Swinny, what you're doing?
Doesn't sound like something you'd get.
I'll probably get it digitally. And yeah, I just want to say I'm so happy that, considering I put probably, which is not a lot of amount of time compared to a lot of people, but I put over 100 hours into Monster Hunter World, and it felt great that it felt like a smooth transition, as opposed to, I'm losing a lot of what I loved about World. No, it felt like this is World, but different and almost cooler. Like I was really impressed with it.
Well, because I have World on PS4, and I was actually tempted to boot that up. Because I was like,
you should.
You reckon it wouldn't ruin it? So, because I don't know.
I think you'd be fine. I think you'd be fine. If anything, it would probably help you get used to some of the basics before the first one comes out. Rise comes out.
Yeah.
Not a lot of basics, by the way. It goes from like 2-3 basics to everything advanced and the rest expert mode.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. But at least you get more than what you did in this demo.
Yeah, no, like I'm super looking forward to this. It looks really, really sick. It's just it's definitely because out of the games that we've spoke about, it essentially is the number one game for me that's coming out this year. Because some of the other games we don't know are actually coming out this year, like Elden Ring. And is that going to be exclusive now to next gen? And then also like Breath of the Wild 2, is that coming out this year? Maybe you won't. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I'll probably get it physically, even though I'll get cranky all the time like I do with Smash Brothers, having to put the cart in all the time. But there's one other thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly, just around Monster Hunter.